This video is intended only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Have you ever walked through a snowy forest? No sounds, no animals, just the sound of your own breath. That's what it's like right now, Christmas Eve. I was a detective at the police department, but some things we'd like to keep under wraps. A horrible, rotten smell hits my nose. I gag, trying not to vomit. I trudge through the snow, heaving. My eyes are watering. Oh, fuck, what is that? I wipe my eyes, to which I see a small box, left in the snow between the trees. Odd, I say to myself. That was not there before. I have my right hand on my holster, just in case, as I inch my way over to the parcel. My heart stops. The box is leathery. On closer inspection, it's human skin. The bow is made up of ligaments. What sick, psychotic fuck. This was no ordinary killer. This was some Hannibal Lecter shit. I have seen some messed up things on the job, but this one takes the cake as the worst possible thing. Jesus Christ, I can barely describe the smell. I get my pocket knife and cut the ribbon. It's worse than I thought. Inside of the box is caked in dried blood. A human eye lies in the box with a note. I bend down to read it.
Someone hasn't been very good this year.
Signed, Santa. I then hear the crunch of snow. I get my gun and follow the noises down into a clearing. There's a sleigh there with what looks like anorexic, inky black reindeer with rotting flesh. I try not to move. I crane my head up and I feel the bile rising up again. Men, women, children, all different ages, hanging by their necks from the trees. Their intestines ripped out and stuffed with tinsel as their blood drips down onto the snow. Their eyes have been replaced with baubles, and their jaws have been ripped open and packed tightly with snow. I am frozen with fear. I feel like I'm going to pass out. Just as horrifying thoughts cross my mind, there is a thud from the sleigh, and then another. I look down to see him, but this isn't the big fat jolly Saint Nick we all know and love. He is skinny and slender. His beard is black and full of dried blood. He has a white suit instead of red, and he has hooven feet. He has two small curved black horns over his long dark gray hair. He smiles, but not one of Santa that would fill me with joy, but utmost fear. He lets out a ho, ho, ho. But I am just waiting for him to kill me. He makes his way over to me, the big leathery sack slung over his shoulder, dripping a black fluid. He comes face to face with me and smiles again. He reaches into his sack and pulls out a box. He hands it to me. He then whispers into my ear.
I know when you are sleeping. I know when you're awake. I know when you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake.
Once upon a year on Christmas, kindness, happiness, and family are celebrated across the world. However, years ago on Christmas Eve, a recently abandoned little girl was not so lucky while walking across the small town she lived in. She was hoping to find someone, anyone to help her. She instead found a couple teenagers, drunk college kids driving erratically through town. Even though she looked both ways and stayed far on the sidewalk, their truck still found her. The next morning, families around the world opened presents and enjoyed their gifts, while every one of those college kids was found dead. The cause of death was drowning, only it was alcohol, not water. To add more mystery to their deaths, they were in their beds, with no signs of a struggle or forced entry and, get this, no alcohol bottles of any kind. Ever since then, on Christmas around the world, children and adults alike have been found dead or are seen die in the most mysterious of circumstances. Reports of seeing a little girl before or after at every scene of death have been quietly going around, but no one ever really knows for sure since it's usually grieving and hysterical loved ones that find the dead. But those that are sure are the ones who have been visited by this girl before. A girl with pale skin of the dead, with a blue blemish and thick black veins. Her hair is long and wet and covers her face, and her forearms are covered in black liquid. She doesn't speak, she doesn't move. She simply stands there and watches the result of her work with a crying face. The same face she had when she was crying after finding no one except that big, black, scary truck. Only those who have seen her know why she came for their loved one, and that's why they decide to stay jolly instead of grieving. No one knows what she really is, if she's a real girl or a ghost of Christmas death. However, the town that she was killed in, they know her as Molly, Jolly Molly. She was the brightest girl in school around Christmas despite being poor and having abusive drug addict parents. Regardless of what or who she is, the rules are simple. Be grateful no matter how your Christmas turns out to be, and always, always be jolly, or Molly will come for you and gift you a fitting death. Our current story, however, centers around a spoiled stepdaughter that's been forced to spend Christmas with her one and only lonely grandma in her old classic home in the mountains that has no Wi-Fi or television. A true hell is how the spoiled brat puts it, while her 4 parents sort out their drama. Her grandmother has just taken out her freshly baked legendary sugar pecan cookies, but when her grandma brings her granddaughter such cookies, the same ones that the girl has enjoyed since she was 5, she rudely exclaims she can't eat them, that she won't eat them because they're full of carbs, and only fat and lonely people eat carbs. She then knocks the cookies to the floor before storming out of the house to go find somewhere better to spend her Christmas. It didn't matter where. Anywhere is better than the hell of being in a house with a loving, sweet grandmother. Her grandmother tried to give chase, but her weak heart gives out, and she dies from cardiac arrest. All alone in the snow, the brat, lost in her antics, didn't even notice or care for her grandmother's cries as she fell into the snow. The brat just ran and ran. She couldn't breathe or even see where she was going. Even so, she keeps going and going just to get her precious Wi-Fi and television. Yet in the end, she never makes it to her heaven, never makes it anywhere near anywhere or anyone. She is found by her parents in her grandma's house. All 4 of them found her fresh, dead body. Cause of death was suffocation. Her mouth, throat, and stomach were stuffed by those legendary pecan cookies, fresh out of the oven. After removing said cookies, the coroner finds that her tongue, throat, and stomach were burnt to a crisp. Over and over on the inside of her body, her skin and bones are carved with the words, "Be good, for survivor's sake." Our next story is about a young man in Japan who's been spoiled his whole life until times got tough and he just entered high school. His parents sold all of their high-end furniture and other belongings and possessions just to stay afloat. Though unfortunately, the one thing they couldn't save was really the only thing that mattered to the young man: the money to pay for his college, apartment, and food, or whatever else he's wanted or needed. Since his grades dropped during the transition in his life, and with his college fund no more, he had to get into college the old-fashioned way. 3 days a week he went to cram school just to keep his grades at an acceptable level. On top of that, he spent the other 4 days of the week working 2 part-time jobs, so he can save up for college as much as possible. Finally, after 4 long, grueling years, he made it into his perfect college, and he had the money to pay for it. The first chance he got, he left home and never looked back, and his hatred of his parents was never vanquished. 3 years later, he's in love and enjoying his new life that's full of friends and adventure. The last thing on his mind is his parents. He never replies to their calls, texts, Christmas, or birthday cards. Nothing to let them know he's alive and all right, and nothing for him to know if they're alive and all right. Except one day, on his way out to go on a date, he gets a knock on the door. It's a piece of mail from a hospital he grew up near, and it's addressed to him. He ignores it, stepping on it on his way out the door and down the hallway. He goes on the date, and afterwards he comes home with his girlfriend to find the police officers waiting for him. They tell him that his parents are dead. Cause of death? Suicide. It turns out his parents were in huge debt and behind on all of their bills, just so they could save up money to pay for his wedding. They had sent the money in a package a month prior for his birthday, but he threw it away just as he did with all their gifts and cards they ever sent him. Anger finds him as he wonders why his parents could be so stupid not to label the package or let him know about it. That's when he remembers he blocked them on his phone, and he still has many messages and voicemails from an unknown number. He checks them, and one after the other, each message and voicemail is a happy birthday, good luck, Merry Christmas, and updates on his parents in general. He runs over to the door and finds the note he stepped on and opens it to find it's a letter written from his parents. Hey honey, we know you still won't forgive us even after you receive your birthday gift this year. We still don't expect you to either if you don't want to. We just wanted to let you know that we're sorry and hope we can come to your wedding and meet the woman that's made you happier than we ever could. With love, your parents. Once again, the young man is stricken with anger that now his parents wasted all that time and money for no reason, since he makes enough money and will make more after college to afford his own wedding. The next morning, Christmas morning, his girlfriend wakes up to find nothing but blood covering every inch of their apartment outside of their room. Thin pieces of something dance through the air, and when she finally has the courage to grab one, she discovers that it's skin. A slice of skin very similar to that of a cash dollar. That's when she takes a second glance at the remaining thousands of skin dollars around her. She screams at the realization and tries to run out of the apartment but slips on the blood. She finds herself stopped at the feet of someone. She looks ahead to see 2 little feet. 2 feet with the skin of the dead, but with a blue blemish and thick black veins. She looks up further to see nothing but long, wet black hair, and somehow is unable to see her face, despite the well-lit apartment. The girlfriend begs for help, but the little girl does nothing except turn her head like a curious dog. The girlfriend tries to run, but she slips on the blood again and hits her head on the floor, knocking herself out. When she comes to, she finds a police tactical squad shouting and aiming their weapons at her. She gets charged, arrested, and then sentenced to 25 years in prison for the murder of her boyfriend. For she too has a price to pay for encouraging the boy to ignore his parents and be his own man, when in reality she only did so that he could spend his money and time on her and no one else. Since she too is a spoiled child from a rich family and only wants a man who can provide that lifestyle for her. Be good for survivor's sake.